Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2, season 2 of Shot of Nostalgia, where we're doing that deep dive straight through 1995 of ECW. Happy holiday beatings, man. It's a great time. It was Thanksgiving yesterday. It's Black Friday today, and ain't nothing blacker than some hardcore wrestling. I'm good old Mike Belcaster, as always, and with me, my man, the man with the plan, my partner in crime.
Live from the No Sale Studios, it's the Ace of the Tavern, Stephen ACEFIELD, ready to get into Terry Funk's return to the land at the extreme. Belcaster, I'm so glad you can join me here following Thanksgiving. I know you're under the weather, but we're going to power through this. And nothing like ECW. It's like chicken noodle soup on a cold winter's day.
Man, you could not be any more correct than that, sir. It's good for the soul, Daddy. What better than a little Terry Funker to make you feel a little bit better during that holiday weather, man.
Before we get into it, guys, I just want to thank you guys for all listening to the video format and also the first ever Shot Nostalgia audio drop that we had over the weekend. So got some good feedback on that. And yeah, we're going to continue to drop the whole season, 13 episodes in total. We also got some good news we're going to be talking about during the end of the show about some potential special edition episodes, and I'll give you more info into that, so stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss it. Nothing's confirmed yet, but, you know, ACEFIELD's been all over the place, as you guys can see on my Instagram. I'm rubbing shoulders with some of the lucha greats like Juventud Guerrera during the week. He did a seminar at the MYWC Sportatorium for Remarkable Wrestling. And, you know, there's some connections with ECW and MYWC. A lot of those guys are from this area. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. We'll give more info later.
Love it. I'm excited for it, man. The future is bright here for Shot of Nostalgia, and I can't be happier, man.
So as Mike so eloquently alluded to in the beginning of the intro, we're going to be reviewing ECW Return of the Funker 1995. We're also going to be going through all the results from the ECW Hardcore TV leading up to the event. There's a couple of them. So as you know, each week leading up to the event, we're going to be just kind of going through context, building up the landscape so you understand, because there's some time in between the events. The first one we did was on February 4th. This one's on February 25th. The next event's not going to be until, I believe, April. So there's a lot of hardcore TV in between.
Hell yeah. No, it's an ECW schedule was exactly the opposite of what a schedule is. It was all over the place, much like independent wrestling is sometimes. You know, you got your monthly shows. These guys were working bi-monthly, doing twice a month. They were taking months off. They were, you know, just skipping around, but the content and the quality was always there. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I know it's a little bit all over the place, but I mean, nothing more chaotic than some good old 95 ECW.
So if you had difficulty finding Return of the Funker, you're not alone. I don't believe Peacock has it up on streaming, but don't worry, we'll give you your daily dose of ECW here. There are other ways to find it. You guys do your own research and your own whatever you want to do. You be your own Captain Jack Sparrow and find your way to watch ECW Return of the Funker, because it's worth watching, man. This was a good event.
Absolutely, man. I don't know if the old school Pirate Bay is still around, but
it's something of the sort. I'm sure it's
something
like
of the sort. Yeah, just tape trade all day, man. You know, you guys know what you're doing. You're wrestling fans. This is how we go about our normal wrestling hawking around. So make it happen, Captain.
So if you really like to watch it, I'm sure it's available on DVD form at this point. Put the video on pause, and then 2 to 3 days later with shipping and stuff, it will be here. We'll be here when you get back. But either way, we'll give you all you need to understand about ECW 1995 Return of the Funker. But first, let's set the tone with Dave Meltzer's newsletter in the happy hour. All right, so the absolute monstrosity that was the newsletter last month, or last week we did the show, there was a lot. So point being is this one won't be as extensive. We did a 55-minute newsletter for our introduction to ECW. I don't foresee it going that far because we don't have that much information to go by because there was only 2 weeks between the events.
Yeah.
So the next one, I'm sure, will be more as we go through the March and April newsletter, but there's a lot of key context that builds on what we were talking about last week.
Yeah, 100%. And of course, we love to hear Meltzer, the word of Meltzer on this Holy Friday. So please let us 5-star rate.
Amen. All right, so let's go with the February 13th, 1995 newsletter. And we're continuing to talk about Eric Bischoff's growing anger towards the Extreme Championship Wrestling promotion and or jealousy. So promoters involved with much larger organizations such as Eric Bischoff this past weekend with WCW, when he was plugging the pay-per-view in Baltimore on the worldwide web, which is what he calls it, obviously the internet he's alluding to, noted that they're running the Baltimore Arena and not a bingo hall. And Ron Scholar are clearly bothered with the attention ECW receives. ECW is talked of as being the best wrestling in the U.S., and among groups that regularly attend house shows that they run, it probably delivers the best product pound for pound. An asterisk has to be put by that statement when comparisons are made with other groups. He continues to talk about what we talked about last week. They're not running house shows. It's only live events, sort of like you have to see it to believe it. A lot of what we see here is almost word of mouth. Like over time, it's like a game of telephone, but the ECW product gets better when you hear about it rather than watching it. And it's one of those things you, again, have to be in attendance to because it takes it up to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Listen, I think that's how everybody kind of heard about ECW, was a little bit of word of mouth. Definitely no advertising. Definitely not going, oh yeah, man, this company is just coming through, I'm going to check them out. It was always somebody going, man, you got to see the Sabu guy, or man, you got to see, oh, they brought in Terry Funk. They got this crazy dude Raven there. Like, it was a lot of hype and a lot of follow through. You had to find it. You had to dig for it. And that's what made it kind of its beauty, you know?
Yeah, I think sort of the obscurity of it, that feels like you're in this club. And I think that's a lot to do with the birth of AEW. When it first started, you felt like you're a part of something special. And I'm not saying that disappeared yet, but there's an exclusivity of being a part of this extreme club that you either know about it or you don't. It's like an underground club that you're a part of. And I think ECW benefited from that.
Absolutely, man.
So he continues to double down about that episode we talked about on January 31st. And Meltzer says, this was among the best 1-hour US TV shows I've ever seen. Its followers remarkably similar in some ways, and other ways completely different to the mid-'80s WWF fans and the FMW Korakuen Hall fans, some of who will defend it to no end, ignore its shortcomings, overstate its strengths, and go crazy at even the hint of any other wrestling or wrestlers that could be better. So this is sort of the divide we have at wrestling fans on the IWC now, mostly Twitter, social media, where arguments happening, where there's this tribalism of WWE, AEW, which is better. This was in existence there. I don't think people had the platform to be there. And I think ECW at the time, those fans have been very vocal if they had the ability to shout down the WWF fans in 1995.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy, man. It's weird to hear Meltzer kind of on the fence too. Like, we'll get a little bit of like, oh, this is garbage, trash wrestling, blah, blah. And then here he's praising it. Some of the best wrestling, I could say best hour of wrestling I've seen to date. So very interesting to see him flip-flopping so much on it. And I mean, it's new. It's something fresh and different. And I think there's the Japanese style wrestling that Meltzer obviously loves, and very high held in his honor, but then I mean, ECW was a lot of that. There was a lot of, like we said, time and time again, there's a lot of technical wrestling. It's not just Axel and Ian beating the piss out of each other with Nintendo machines. It comes down to good in-ring work, and I think that's what Meltzer really loves.
So Dave continues and talks about most fans, however, simply appear to be appreciative that they could see matches in their area where they know going in that everyone will work extremely hard, that shortcuts will be minimized or non-existent, that even though run-ins and outside interference will occur, that we'll see a winner and a loser in just about every match, that something unpredictable is almost guaranteed to take place at almost any time on the show. There's probably more of what could be said about team unity or just among the wrestlers, but among fans and the wrestlers combined of any other promotion I've ever seen in the US or beyond. Every match on the show isn't always good. Every match does it something or nothing on the show comes off as something being done to kill or waste time. That's high praise from Dave Meltzer there. That is, I think he quantifies ECW more, in a better way than he probably even thought he was doing at the time. Because that kind of quantifies what ECW is and became and still is to this day, where it's about the experience. It's about the music. It's about the fans. It's about the chants. It's about the guys that are just bleeding for this promotion, literally, and they'll die for ECW. This is it's a fandom that goes beyond just what's happening in the ring.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I mean, he not only sums it up perfectly there, but the thrill of Shot of Nostalgia Season 1 is, the nonsense DQs, the bullshit no finishes. There's very little of that in ECW because there simply are barely any rules. So, I mean, we're getting straightforward results at the end of the day, even if there is some fuckery going on. New Jack could come out, with a shopping cart filled with God knows what, beat the piss out of everybody in the ring. There'd be 5 more run-ins, and you would still have a winner of the match at the end of the segment. Like, so I feel like there's something to say about that. People wanted results. People wanted a definitive ending to the match, and I think that drove through for the fan base. I think it really clicked, and people really enjoyed it.
So a few things he continues here. They're close to making a deal for the New Orleans television and running house shows and television tapings for a local casino in the area. So good news for them as they're trying to approach. We heard last week that they got the TV deal in Birmingham, Alabama. So slowly but steady, they're making their way throughout the wrestling promotions and all these different markets. But we know they're going to face some pitfalls as far as finding pay-per-view and sponsors to take hold of this, because it's still sort of taboo when we talk about ECW hardcore wrestling. Same thing with UFC in 1995. Nobody really wanted to touch it. They wanted other sponsors to go in, take the risk. And now they're, years later, UFC is a cash cow. No one, they have McDonald's and whatever on their mat. But at the time, it's unheard of to think about what would be advertisements back in the day. It's crazy.
No, absolutely. And just night and day from, 95 to now. I mean, you are seeing UFC as a blood sport, but it's very, very, it's a parade, people, it's a spectacle. People want to see it. People pay to see it. People love it. Sponsors are into it. And it's a little time and effort and a few changes here and there. You never know what can become huge these days.
Yeah, 100% agree. It became normalized. And I think it's because our generation are now the older people, like the 30-something-year-olds, 40-year-olds are the ones that grew up, and our parents were the one who were like, you can't watch that. Same thing with professional wrestling. I think a lot of the reason why WWE got to its global stature in the market is because it became normalized. And I think in the beginning, we're, again, getting older. We're the parents that are allowing our kids to watch it, and it's becoming a form of entertainment that's just acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. Dad bods and headlocks, man. Dad bods and headlocks.
I mean, that is a shirt if I've ever heard of that. All right, so Ibaragi of the WING promotion is looking to bring in several ECW wrestlers, as we talked about last week, because Weekly Pro Wrestling pushes every ECW Philadelphia show as if it's a major U.S. event. ECW has a strong hardcore following in the Tokyo area particularly. Ibaragi is looking at headlining his first tour with Public Enemy at the last week of March. They're also talking stages and the deal isn't completed. He also wants to mend fences with Cactus Jack, who did some time there working with him in a different promotion. Point is, they're trying their best to integrate other talent and get exposure. And ECW has a reputation that they're willing to be progressive enough to work collaboratively with other promotions, where it seems commonplace today. You see people crossing over. I mean, most notably, as a recently is New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE working together with Carl Anderson. He's a never open weight champion. He's in WWE. They're allowing him to do that. Shinsuke Nakamura is going to be wrestling Pro Wrestling Noah. So it's commonplace now, but at the time, unheard of. And again, you can credit ECW with a little bit of this progressive thinking because Paul Heyman was behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it nowadays it seems crazy if you wouldn't work together with another company. And I'm actually very happy to see WWE doing that with New Japan. And same thing with Shinsuke Nakamura going over there. It's just cool. There's a lot of people that just respect not just the history of it, but also respect the different areas of wrestling. And it's good to see Triple H kind of follow in suit with that. Tony Khan, obviously. I'm here for it. I like to see the interchangeable characters be pushed aside and moved around. Like it adds to better depth for not only story, but the characters who are wrestling in the ring. It's so much better than just your weekly, the same couple guys doing their shit together in one show. Broaden out, expand. Nothing holding you back. You're the biggest company in the goddamn world. It's only gonna be beneficial for you to start working with other companies, I think.
Yeah, and it's easy for us to talk about the benefits for the other promotions. It seems that is what everyone wants to talk about financially and how it's exposure for the fans and how we win, but it's also great for the talent as well. They get exposed to different styles. We always talk about the independent wrestlers, and I'm huge with watching and following the independents as of late, and really my whole wrestling fandom. The best thing you can ever have is reps for these wrestlers and working different styles, working different promotions, seeing what works in certain areas and what doesn't. Having Public Enemy work Japan is huge because they can bring back what they learned from Japan to your promotion, and Public Enemy can bring that elsewhere. And it's just sort of intertwining all these different styles and mindsets, and everyone's sitting under the learning tree of all the different great minds in these different promotions at the time. So I just think it's such a great thing to immerse ourselves in different styles, because it's not just about the catch as catch can style of a Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels, but there's also the lucha style. There's also the hardcore style we see a lot in the show, but it's also the Japanese strong style. So wrestling's a buffet. You know, there was an argument on the Turnbuckle page about the Young Bucks. I know that Chad posted a picture of the Bucks and saying it's so great to have the Elite back. And I chimed in with the guy who was arguing saying the Elite are horrible. They're horrible wrestlers. And he's entitled to that opinion, of course, because he doesn't like the gymnastics, the rehearsed looking wrestlers. But that doesn't mean that he's wrong, but also doesn't mean that people that like the Bucks are right. It's wrestling is the best as a smorgasbord of different styles, and people that don't like lucha, I get it. Like, I understand why you don't, but you have to accept that other people do. And there's a reason why it's existing still to this day, and why lucha is still ever present across all different markets, because it does draw. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's influential. Like you can't have this day and age's wrestling without the lucha. Japan, you could name Mexico, a bunch of different outside territories. Their influence is so strong in today's wrestling. It is like a buffet. You really have to hone in on those skills and really get yourself a huge repertoire of movesets and different styles of wrestling to make yourself stand out. Especially in this day and age. I mean, we got so many copied moves, so many copied characters. So I mean, what's the Sarah Logan and the who's the girl on the Indies? And like it's
right.
It's too much of the same, you know. And not anybody's fault, but I mean, it's hard to stand out no matter what you're doing. And yeah, you really have to become a learned master of this trade to become better at it, to be a draw, to be a star powered person. You have to use your influences, man.
It doesn't benefit anyone to sit in your own little echo chamber of what you believe works. In WWE for so long, under the tutelage of Vince McMahon and him overseeing it, he had this mindset of wanting to keep everything in house because he didn't want anyone else to thrive. Because you have to understand where he's coming from. Not that we want to dive deep into the Monday Night Wars and all that, but his mindset is competition, and he was struggling to stay alive. And in 95, we talked about it throughout Shot Nostalgia. In 96, WWF was on the verge of potentially not being in existence anymore. Forget about being a global powerhouse. There's a chance they wouldn't be around. So I think Vince was traumatized from that. I think he had the inability to have the same willingness to work with different companies that maybe Paul Heyman, who had nothing really to lose. So it's two different ways of looking at things.
No, absolutely. And it's crazy to think like your 95 WWF was struggling so hard. 96 WWF still struggling so hard. But I mean, you're getting this new up and coming ECW kind of doing their thing, capturing the market. Who knows what would have happened if WWF didn't last? You know, maybe ECW might be the global powerhouse these days, and you know, you never know. It's crazy. Yeah, man. Paul E knew what he was doing.
So we talked about that other Super Show that was happening, similar to the Inoki Super Show festival that we talked about in 96. But before that, New Japan and AAA were trying to put together a Super Show in 95. And Meltzer is alluding to ECW and Paul Heyman have decided not to allow its talent to appear because they aren't interested in talent trading and are insistent on not wanting any of their talent on appearing on WWF or WCW television or pay-per-views. That goes against everything we were just talking about with the New Japan stuff. But I think because he feels that it's not reciprocal on WWF and WCW's part, that they're not willing to go back and forth with them. So I think the willingness to work with WING, All Japan, potentially New Japan, that's still in play for them because Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Too Cold Scorpio, they're going to do dates in Japan throughout 95. That's a given. We know that WCW wants to get their hands on them. And it's no coincidence that Benoit and Malenko, they were highly touted. They were eventually the next year, they wind up in WCW. And Paul Heyman's left holding the bag and saying, what could have been? He recognized the talent of these guys. He knew he couldn't pay them. And I think maybe he thought if they went over there and they got exposure and they got over with their crowd, WCW and WWF would be willing to pay them money that he couldn't keep up with. And I think that's Paul Heyman being smart again.
Yeah, 100%, man.
All right, so continuing here, the latest on Weekly Pro Wrestling Show on 4/2 at the Tokyo Dome is that they've abandoned the idea of having foreign promotions as part of the show. Originally, both ECW and WCW were contacted, but the promoters decided after getting 13 different Japanese promotions to agree to participate that anything else would be added unnecessary expense that won't sell any additional tickets. Same mindset as we have at local independent shows. You're going to book a talent. He's going to cost a certain amount of money to bring him in. You have to do the math in your head. Is this person going to bring in X amount of tickets? You do the math problem. That amount of money divided by the tickets sold. And if it's worth it, you bring them in. For ECW, for all these different promotions that are still trying to get their legs in them, that same math equation has to be taken in consideration. I think at the time, the Weekly Pro Wrestling Show in Japan, they said, we're already going to sell the amount of tickets we are. So whether we bring Sabu in or not, that's not going to be, bringing anybody in. It would add to the card and make it more memorable. But they're about the live gate. And I think that's what the 90s were about. It was about live gate, television ratings, and pay-per-view buys. So if you were already selling the tickets and people were already watching, what's the point of paying someone extra with the hotel and the airfare?
100%, man. You got to make your wallet, man.
All right. So moving on to Sandman here. We saw him in the main event here, the Texas Death Match at Double Table. Sandman's going to be kept off shows until early March because he's still shaken up for the concussion at the Double Table show. Although he's doing okay, according to Meltzer. Public Enemy is being kept off until March 3rd to sell an angle where Benoit powerbombs Sabu on a Rocco Rock and through the table on the same show to heat up a grudge for upcoming Philly shows. So interesting that they're going to keep three of their biggest stars off TV. What are your thoughts on them doing this? Does this seem like it's a smart strategy to build up some momentum towards the next event?
Yeah, I think it's a sales strategy. In all fairness, I think you want to leave your fan base craving for more, and we talk about this a lot, where you don't want the same talent on every single show. You have to, much like AEW does. We have a huge, large talent pool here. I mean, ECW not so much, but in AEW there is, and you have to rotate them properly so you can still sell markets. I mean, AEW comes to Chicago how many times a year? We don't get the same card every time they come here, which is great. They do switch it up a lot, and you get a good mix of talent. And I think ECW was just trying to do that so they would sell more tickets in their home base. So keep them off for TV for a few. Let the word of mouth circulate. Rocco Rock's not here. They build it up, and when you get the delivery, more people are going to want to show up to see these guys.
It's a really good point. And I think it's a strategy we see time and time again for these local independents to build up mystique, build up an aura for these guys that you don't want them to be watered down. And when you run shows in the same market time and time again, there's a piece of you that you want to do the delicate balance dance. You don't want them to be not in front of your crowd because they're not going to be over enough, but you also don't want them to be there too often where their act gets stale. And a lot of these guys, you're having to change up the event from week to week to make it seem a little bit different. We talked about Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair wrestling how many nights in a year. They had to do something a little bit different to get that local Southern audience to react. Same thing here with Paul Heyman. He wants to protect Sandman because, let's be honest, Sandman's pretty limited in the ring, but the gimmick is super over. If you have him on TV and keep him off, you build up sympathy with obviously as Don just dropped that, build up the angle with the concussion, but also Public Enemy is super over. So when they do return March 3rd, people are going to go crazy.
Yeah, no, you're gonna get that. You're gonna get that pop that you're looking for, and same thing with Sandman. Like you said, he's very, very over. The whole gimmick is over, and it's a crowd built gimmick. He comes out, he's pouring beer on people. It's over, man. And you gotta take it away a little bit so it doesn't get watered down.
So on the February 25th show, as we'll see in the main event here, we have Cactus Jack versus a mystery opponent managed by a woman. Meltzer knows it's going to be DC Drake. The crowd goes mild. We'll talk about exactly why they did that and how it fell flat with the crowd, because when you see the name pop up as a mystery opponent, you expect it to be someone maybe like Terry Funk. I mean, Terry Funk returns at the end of the match, as we'll get to, but I don't know. It's interesting that they chose to go DC Drake. Maybe they thought he would have resonated with the local Philly audience.
Yeah, it's weird choice. Big flop. Big flop.
All right. So as we see on the hardcore TV end of things, they air footage from different events. The Chris Benoit versus Al Snow match from 2-4 aired on TV the week before, the next event for Return of the Funker, and they still aired footage of Public Enemy versus Sabu and Taz Maniac match showing video of the powerbomb through the table by Benoit. They concluded with a lengthy Benoit interview, which Meltzer said was 400% improved over anything he's ever done on the mic. Although he's still not where he needs to be on interviews if they want to be a drawing card or a standout in a promotion, which has some of the best interviews around. Interesting around. I mean, Benoit never winds up being a mic guy. I mean, he's not a bad promo guy, but he never catches your eye. I remember that run through 2004 when he wins the Rumble and he's the guy. He had some good moments too. Like he's feuding on SmackDown with Paul Heyman, who was the commissioner at the time, or the GM, I should say. There was moments where Benoit has these great promos, but similar to Bret Hart, it's more about the in-ring ability. And I think Meltzer's on it. I think he recognizes like standout in promotion. You see keywords, improvement. You see all these superlatives being thrown Benoit and Malenko and Eddie Guerrero's way, and Meltzer's on top of it.
Yeah. No, and it's 100%. I mean, I thought that promo was one of the best Benoit things captured outside of the ring. I thought it was awesome, and he wasn't a big talker, and sometimes when he would get on the mic, it would hinder his character a little bit. So it was all about the in-ring persona. And when he was feuding with Paul on SmackDown, that was different because Paul knew how to pull shit out of him, much like he did here. So I think there was some love there for that, and I think Benoit was just not a talking guy. Like I've never heard a good Benoit promo. You can't pull up a great Benoit promo and be like, this changed the game.
Just not going to happen. I mean, there's certain things that people are good at, and he's just one of those guys that in the ring, he was magic, but on the mic, it wasn't embarrassingly bad by any means. It's definitely worse promo guys, but he's not going to be that game-changing Austin 316 promo level of guy. It's just not happening for him.
No, not at all.
So to finish up the newsletter, and then we're going to get into, I clipped a couple of fans talking about ECW, 3 fans, Jacob Gilbert from Troy, New York, wherever you are, Jacob, Peter Paulson from Hudson, Quebec, and Jeff Zinger of Woodstock, Ontario. I'm going to talk about what they thought about ECW. But the final thing in the newsletter, Heyman wanted to air a tape of Sabu and Tasmaniac from the February 12th Kurokan show against Kengo Kimura and Kobayashi as a ECW tag title events in Japan. However, since last minute, the booker Koshinaka decided Sabu and Taz were losing. The match surely won't air, and the titles were not on the line. So hardcore TV is not about the live production. It's about promos. It's about an hour-long infomercial for ECW to buy their merch, to buy their tapes, to find a way to find the product, and then see these special events. Not quite pay-per-views, but find a way to get to the arena. So if you're local to the area, even if you're not, people are driving 4 or 5 hours to come see ECW live and in person. But yeah, it was interesting to see that because it would have been cool to see this match on TV, and I guess it's lost to the annals of time. Maybe they have it on New Japan Pro. I don't know. Maybe it's out there.
Yeah. No, not too sure. Pretty interesting though. Very interesting. It would have been awesome to see randomly at 2 a.m. Just be like, hell yeah, man. And Kurokan Hall is such a beautiful venue. And it's grown over time, but even back then, it was still such a prestigious,
legendary
Japanese. Yeah, it was unbelievable. So it would have been awesome to see, man. But damn them for putting the kibosh on.
All right, so we have fans writing into Meltzer about ECW, and this was interesting. I think it was the theme for the final newsletter of this month of February. And Jacob Gilbert, the things he said here, I won't read the whole thing, but this is a clip I have here. He said, I just started watching and taping ECW on MSG Cable. After 2 weeks, these are my impressions. The show is inconsistent. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's bad. Scott Levy's new identity of Raven sucks. I saw The Crow, and trust me, this gimmick is several months too late to get over.
Wow.
James LaBar should sue for copyright infringement. Steve Richards doesn't excite me in the least. Public Enemy can be obnoxious. He continues to go at the end. I have no respect for Benoit and Malenko's gimmicks. To me, it's a thumbs in the middle. The reason I put this there, and the other guys are a little bit more positive, was how dead wrong, Jacob, you're dead wrong on Raven.
Yeah.
It's too late to get over. What are we talking about?
This must be Glenn Gilbert's brother.
Yeah, exactly.
It's completely out of touch with the business. But I mean, come on, man, you can't shit on Raven like that and say they should be suing him, all this shit. I mean, a year removed from this, we get Sting, and it's the most over. He's still fucking dressing like it to this day.
I still don't see it as Crow though. Like, how is this Crow? I don't understand. It's
No,
Nirvana. It's 90s grunge rock.
Hell yeah, it's this is Nirvana. This is the Offspring. This is everything that you would get out of this era. And maybe it was just lost because it was too current at the time, and nobody could wrap their head around it. They didn't understand the freaks and geeks yet.
So Peter Paulson from Hudson, Quebec, was a little more kind to ECW. He said, over the past few months, I've done quite a bit of traveling around the world in order to experience and compare how each promotion ranks, both in terms of talent and the overall experience to see them live. January 7th at the ECW Arena would be right up there with seeing All Japan at the Tokyo Dome. I left the 1-7 show completely exhausted and satisfied. Many I spoke to were very unhappy about the Douglas and Blanchard match. I beg to differ. They put on a great wrestling match. It just wasn't the right style for Philly. Overall, I thought it was a superb card. I realized many of the regulars are used to something better. No matter how bad the card could or would have been, I'd be happy with it. I'd rank the atmosphere right up there with All Japan Men or the FMW at Korakuen Hall. So, two difference between Jacob and Peter. Peter saw it in person. Jacob watched it on his TV. And that distinction has to be made here, that the experience is best received live. I mean, you go to see a concert, some bands, they wow you in concert and you become a fan for life. There's been a lot of bands I've seen that you hear them on, whether it be on vinyl or Spotify, or you hear their music and it's just there, but when you see them live, the song transcends and all of a sudden it's like, man, I'm a fan for life.
Yeah, and complete the opposite. There's some bands that you love to listen to on, Spotify or whatever, and then you go see them live and you're like, the fuck did I just watch? True. But it goes to show, I mean, even with GCW, you could turn it on and be like, this is very inconsistent. It's just fucking all over the place. But when you're there live in person, it's a party, man. And that's the best atmosphere for pro wrestling because you are living in the moment. You're watching these guys do their thing. You're part of it. You're part of the spectacle. You are just as involved as they are because you control your environment. I think there's so much love with that when there's these small, intimate wrestling shows like that. I'm with the man.
So if you're with Peter, you're going to definitely be with David Doyle, Braintree, Massachusetts. He said, I was part of a van full of fans that braved a snowstorm to get from Boston to Philly to see the 2-4 ECW show. This was my first time seeing an ECW show live. After seeing the show, I can't understand what ECW's critics are talking about. It seems too many fans lose sight of what they started watching wrestling for in the first place. They talk about the state of the business or things they have no idea about. They forget they started watching wrestling because it's fun. The big two I haven't been much fun in recent years. Vince and Eric, as of McMahon and Bischoff, must have wondered where all the fans have gone. Perhaps if the wrestlers didn't go through the motions at house shows, didn't treat their fans arrogantly, and they had more professional pride, they wouldn't be in the position they're in. In contrast, the February 4th show that was the most fun I've had watching wrestling since I was a kid. Everyone on the card worked to the best of their ability to put on a good show. This was a great brawling, great high spots, great technical work. I met most of the ECW wrestlers, and they seemed legitimately grateful for the support. And I had a great time meeting fans from Ohio, Virginia, California, and other places. So if you want to waste money on bad pay-per-views and whine about the state of wrestling, I've had enough of listening to it. I'll definitely be back to the ECW arena, though. David Doyle from Braintree, Massachusetts.
Hell yeah.
Crushed it, dude. And this resonates so hardcore today. Use the word
100%.
Hardcore. But, dude, when you hear people complaining about wrestling and you read it online, right here, it seems too many fans lose sight of what they started watching wrestling for in its first place. They talk about the state of the business of things they have no idea about. They forgot they started watching wrestling because it's fun.
100%.
People want to talk about the shit they don't know about. Wrestling is fun. Like,
yeah.
David Doyle, where are you, dude? Like, that was perfectly said.
He probably writes for Fightful or something. No,
exactly.
No, but he's 100% right, man. That's why I always say just sit back and enjoy the ride because you never know where it's going to take you. You have to just enjoy shit, man. And if you're not happy about it, just move on to a different product. There's so many different alternatives out there nowadays that you could find one spot and be happy there. You don't have to consume all of it. You don't need to be the guy that's like, I love everything. I watch, 79 hours of wrestling a fucking week, and like this is what I like. Just pick something and enjoy it. You don't got to shit on everything. You don't got to be so negative all the time with it. Just find what you like, enjoy it, and be happy with it. Find what makes you a happy wrestling fan. Yeah.
And most of all, don't be mad that other people like it. Why do you like? You see people that disagree that, for example, in '95, the ECW was a good product. I'm sure there are people on the other side saying it's a bad product. You're entitled to it. Don't watch it. Don't consume it. Don't buy their product. But then don't come crawling back when it's the most over product in the wrestling world because you're proven wrong. I mean, if you want to be proven wrong and you admit you're wrong, that's a different story. But for people that dig their feet in and they're unwilling to change, I'm not here for that shit.
No, absolutely. Could you imagine if people did this with like Coke? Like, fuck Coke. Coke's stupid. Like, it's red cans, dumb shit. And they're like, hey, fuck Pepsi. Just stupid blue happy cans. And like, Mountain Dew guys are over there like, oh, man, we don't even give a shit. Fuck you guys. like, if you add it to anything, it just sounds so silly. Like, just be happy, man.
Yeah, as they say about Star Wars and wrestling, nobody hates wrestling and Star Wars more than wrestling and Star Wars fans. And it's the truest thing. The other thing I want to talk about here is meeting the wrestlers at the end. That's something you see at the independent shows. And again, I can't tell you guys enough to go out to your local independents and hang out with those guys and see what they're doing because they're not making a lot of money, sometimes not making any money at all. They're learning the craft and go buy their merch. Go see them wrestle. Go see them perform because you're missing a lot of good wrestling on the weekends in your local market. I guarantee it. And you can go shake their hand and meet the person that's playing the character on right in front of you. It's different world. ECW is very similar to this. They were like a super indie.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it's nothing more gratifying than watching somebody that's mastering their craft, do their thing for, 10, 20, 30 minutes in the ring, and then going up afterwards, giving them a handshake, buying a t-shirt, putting food on their table for them, helping them out, and supporting them. Because, I mean, these guys are just learning the craft themselves. They're in the business, man. You need to support these guys so they can make it big. And you never know who's going to become big. You never know. The little scrappy guy that's doing dark matches right now might become the next big thing in 5 years. You just never know. So it's important to just be there for him and just to be supporting the business in general.
Yeah, if you love wrestling, independent wrestling is the lifeblood of it. And I can say it over and over again. And it's appropriate here at ECW. You see it live and in person. The intimacy of these venues, the intimacy of the relationship eventually between fans and the talent is unlike any other promotion. And that concludes the newsletter here. 37 minutes, or maybe next week will be longer, maybe be shorter. But let's get our fix, dude. Let's hop right in. Now everyone's full from Thanksgiving dinner. Maybe you guys are making some sort of turkey, getting full of your turkey leftovers and stuffing, and you're making that giant cranberry turkey stuffing sandwich right now. But save some room for Get Your Fix and for Hulk Hogan to talk about what happened on Hardcore TV for a couple weeks, and also ECW Return to the Funker. All right, as you guys see the scroll coming across, as you guys heard me talk about last week, ECW Hardcore TV ran from 1993 to 2000. It was syndicated at first, but it was also on MSG Network. And we're going to be doing some reviewing, as you guys can see it coming across. There's a lot of repeat matches we talked about before, from double tables for some house shows things. But the first date we're going to be going over is February 7th, 1995. There's two matches to go through. And it's the Pitbulls and Jason Terrible defeating the Young Dragons and Hack Myers, and Benoit defeating Al Snow. So the matches were already aired at ECW Supercard. Both these matches were already on double tables. The matches have already been reviewed by us. We talked about it. It's not like we should go into depth about it. The things that we wanted to just touch on is Jason Knight introduces that he's managing the Pitbulls and also brings out Jason the Terrible, a wrestler who wears the hockey mask. And also Chris Benoit provides some thoughts on Sabu. This is the promo that we're hearing from Meltzer in the newsletter. Benoit says the last few times they wrestled, they have means for hospital rides. The background focuses on Benoit's hands. Benoit hears people saying they can't get the job done. The only reason that Sabu is back is because he wants Sabu back. On any given night, Benoit can take Sabu out and cripple him. Him and Malenko are confident they're going to win the ECW tag titles. Really, really good character development. Had me jonesing for this D Malenko and Benoit tag team to win the titles.
I feel you, man. I'm right there with you. I can't wait.
ECW Championship Wrestling Hardcore TV from Valentine's Day 1995, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This taped in 2 different areas. Quick question, Mike Belcaster, as you're hitting the mute button. I apologize.
Hell yeah. You're good.
Where were you Valentine's Day 1995?
Man,
how old were you and what were you doing? What kind of candy were you consuming?
I was about 6 at the time. I think I was just possibly got into kindergarten. My awesome kindergarten teacher, Miss Davenport, still remember her. She was a beautiful, beautiful soul. Always took good care of us. I possibly was, eating crayons, glue. Who knows? I mean, come on. It's the 90s. We're kids. Nobody really paid attention. We were running rampant. But Valentine's Day, I believe it snowed, and we were just kind of chilling. It might have been a snow day. I'm not too sure, but
good memory.
No candy for this boy. I was
double check Chicago, 1995 on Valentine's Day. If it snowed, dude,
that was good. It was I know it was rather 95 or 96 on Valentine's Day that we got like 2-3 feet of snow, like good snow. Like it was nice, man.
Well, either way, on the same day, airing on Extreme Championship Wrestling Hardcore TV, we had the 2 matches from Double Tables: Mikey Whipwreck and Paul Loria, Cactus Jack and Sandman. Cactus got the win. Mikey got the win. We also had a Benoit highlight video opening the show. And then, woman had Cactus Jack distracted as we saw Double Tables. They continued to show that match. Again, a highlight package. It's sort of an infomercial to get you to buy some products. And to end the show, we have Paul Laurie interviewed. And then 911 comes out and drops him with a chokeslam a couple of times. So, it's more of like a highlight package, but just thought we should add that in there, that this is what they're doing from week to week.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing because it catches you up with the product, especially if you weren't consistently watching it. And 95 ECW, it was really hard to track down on your local network, especially if you were removed from the East Coast. If you were, like I said, in Chicago, it was on channel 26, which is a public, local public access, where like Dan's playing the saxophone an hour beforehand, and then it goes into ECW, and then but it was like once a week, maybe once every other week. It wasn't consistent at all. So like you would catch this, be like, damn, this is awesome. I had no recollection of it being all clips from one show. Like I always thought it was just something new, and they did a really good job of presenting it as that. But it also caught you up. It kept you lingering for more. You would always want to see more, and eventually it turns out that it worked out great for them because you start ordering those pay-per-views, you start buying into it. You love the product by the time that they're launched kind of globally, right? So it's good. Yeah.
I mean, as we talked about in the newsletter, they're building a foothold in at least Japan market, and that's how passionate the fans are that style resonates with the Japanese crowd, because we see that a lot. It's commonplace there. But we have the final Extreme Championship Wrestling Hardcore TV for February 21st, 1995, the lead up to Return of the Funker, the one right before, the go-home show, if you will. One match, Tommy Dreamer defeating Stevie Richards. This was also from Double Tables. But the important angle that goes here is a Shane Douglas promo that we have not seen yet. And he was taking a moment to look at his career thus far in ECW. He talks about how 18 months ago he doubted how a company wrestling in a broken down arena to make an impact in the company. However, he watched the show. He was stunned by the effort the wrestlers put in. He was shocked to see them actually wrestling. Shane continues to talk about the people passing the torch in sports and talks about how Father Time robs wrestlers of their ability. He shoots on Ric Flair a little bit, shoots on Hogan, and says that they both haven't been the best. They're both just entertaining because they're who they are at this point. Douglas then talks about taking credit for the extreme birth of the company, which you can make an argument, tossing that title down, is the birth of ECW. He also talked about tearing the mask off Doink the Clown to reveal the wrestler. Douglas believes he's the best in wrestling. He talks about how they need to take the spot from Terry Funk, but Punk, Punk, I just said Punk. But Funk put up a fight because he wouldn't retire. The promo was really good, though. I mean, he goes in about Flair. I mean, he goes start, and whether it's a shoot or a work or whatever, and he's just trying to get his gimmick over. Man, so talking about how he hates Flair and everything he did for the sport. It literally went over 20 to 30 minutes. Like, I think it was 26 and change for this promo.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I went out and watched this because I thought it was important to see. And I just covered it for you guys, so you don't have to go out and watch it. But it was a good promo. It really establishes Shane as the main guy in the company.
Yeah, and Shane, I mean, that guy could talk for days and make it, you're mesmerized. That guy is just as good as of a talker as Paul Heyman is. You sit there and like he could shit on anybody and everybody. You will fall in love with what he's saying. Like he is so damn good on the mic verbally. He's very well knowledged. It's cool to see that. I like that they give him these timely, lengthy promos.
Yeah, so I mean, they also showed footage of how Sandman got a concussion. You know, they said he was going to be out for 3 weeks. We said that in the newsletter that he would be missing the shows, but they address it live on TV. Out for 3 weeks, so no Sandman. Maybe we'll see the return match with Cactus Jack. But that's it for Hardcore TV. Not much to see. I mean, we didn't have to cover them, and I'm so glad we went with this format, because if we would have done that, if, say, we were covering 2 Hardcore TVs or something, man, we would just be an episode. What are we even talking about?
Yeah, just looping and looping. We could have literally took the first shot of nostalgia and just played it in place of the loop. So it's great. I like it because we still get to talk about it. We got a week removed from when we watched the event, so we kind of digest it a little bit more, get the speakeasy on it. I dig it, man. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's also part of the journey here, is we're understanding how everything was built up to these events and putting it in context, like you mentioned before. Watching it maybe as a kid, or people in the 90s didn't have access to these events, so getting the exposure out. It's the best of the best that ECW has to offer, so why not show it when you have TV time? So I don't blame them for doing it.
No, it's a good, cost-effective way to get your product out there, and timely too. You hold the super card, right? You do your shit, and then you got a month basically to edit the episodes down, play them on your regular show. So people who didn't see the supercard can catch up on things still without hindering the product at all. So you get these small little tidbits, and I think it's a very, very smart move on Heyman and ECW's part. Just brilliant.
So that brings us to why we're here. Return of the Funker, February 25th from the ECW Arena, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You see the scroll going past. So our current champs, still ECW World Champion, is Shane Douglas. March 26, 1994 is when his reign began. Television Champion is Dean Malenko. He won it back on November 4th, 1994. And of course, our tag team champions, Taz and Sabu, they won it last week. Double tables, February 4th, 1995. Those are our champs right now.
Woo! It's good stuff, man. Nothing. I mean, look at that stacked lineup of champions, and not a lot of champions, but the quality is there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good run of champions. We haven't seen Dean come out with the TV title as of yet. I'm curious to see when the TV title will become more prominent as far as being defended.
Yeah,
I know he's losing it in March, because I went through all that. But yeah, he's involved in the tag title championship feud right now with Taz and Sabu. So yeah, it's interesting to see the TV title being on the back burner, because it's such a prominent member in the ECW lore. Like I think over time, I think of Jerry Lynn, RVD, those matches that they had for the TV title, they were getting it on.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's insane. But I hope that we get to see Dean sooner than later.
All right, so lead us the way with the opening match. We get Chad Austin and Joel Hart. Good time.
Yeah, no, listen, we got these two WrestleMania main eventers. these high quality talent. I mean, it's versus the Pitbulls, and it's the squashiest squash match that you could possibly imagine, but done in a great way. They beat the shit out of them. You get the super bomb from the top on the amazing Chad Austin for the win on the Pitbulls. And yeah, after the match, Stevie Richards comes down with Raven, and they get interviewed by the one and only Joey Styles, who's one of my favorite ring announcers of all time. Raven is shitting all over Stevie. You failed, Stevie. You dumb prick. Like he's doing his casual Raven talk. It's the best. And he says he's going to wash his hands in blood. What does that mean? Whose blood? What blood? I don't know what you're talking about.
So good. I love to see the emergence of Raven, the character, and I know the guy from the newsletter shit on Raven. You're wrong, dude. He gets over, and that's the character we all know and love from ECW. I mean, that is such a huge presence here, and we're seeing the emergence and the infancy of it. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favorite glow ups in pro wrestling history. Is coming from Johnny Polo all the way to, what he wrestled his last match, I think, in TNA And it's awesome to watch Raven just do his thing and, you know, transcend the genre of pro wrestling.
Yeah, and I don't even know if like people give Raven the props he deserves. I mean, we certainly do. I love what he's done in ECW, but even the WCW run, and then when he went back to WWF as the hardcore champion, that was amazing as well. So
33-time hardcore champion, and I think I'm still missing a few runs.
Wow.
I think it was like 36. He's the most wins on the hardcore division ever, and he was entertaining as shit. Like I loved when he would come out and kind of steal New Jack's gimmick. He would come out with the shopping cart on WWF, WWE, and I mean he wrestled at Mania. It was, how cool is that? Like you go
what a great
from
match for Kane and Big Show too for the
one of my favorite Mania moments too, and you know, driving around the arena in the golf carts. It was so great. Kane almost died.
Yeah.
Or Raven, I think Raven almost died too. Kane almost ran Raven over. Like it was just
he
insanity.
did run over Raven's foot like as a shoot. Like he actually like he's with the golf cart, man.
Quote the Raven.
So yeah, I mean, and point being is TNA as well. I think he's in the TNA, the Impact Hall of Fame, but well deserved. And he was former TNA or NWA, whatever they called it at the time, world champion. And yeah, huge, man. Like what a career that he had. And people want to look at him as Raven, as far as ECW Raven. The career continued and he thrived for a long period of time.
100%. I mean, even Ring of Honor, like you could pinpoint
his
man.
Feud with CM Punk was amazing too.
Unbelievable, and like his feud with Abyss in TNA was one of the best hardcore feuds you possibly could have had.
Yeah, put some respect on Raven's name, guys. I don't think he gets the love he deserves, and he was good in the ring. He was a great entertainer. And you want to talk about mic guys? We talked about Benoit not being a mic guy. Raven changed the game as far as mic guys go, and look at Bray Wyatt's promos and tell me they're not inspired by Raven. Like Raven, who speaks in circles at you and says a lot without saying anything sometimes, but he also says a lot and builds up the matches and builds up the allure. I mean, those promos on swings outside on low budget cameras were just everything, man. That was just, it built up those matches with Dreamer in such a big way. It was so good.
I mean, you could even pull up comparisons to how MJF talks these days. You know, a lot of his lore comes from his love for Punk and Ring of Honor, and his love for Punk and Ring of Honor was his feud with Raven. You know what I mean? Like, so, and Punk learned a lot of speaking and quality shit from Raven. Like, Raven was not only a huge draw and like a huge character, but he was also a very talented person to teach. And he would teach people all the time. I mean, guy taught me how to do the Sabu spike with a railroad nail, you know, and I was like, the short time I got to hang out with him, man, it was one of the biggest memories. After I Googled the lyrics for Godzilla, he's like, come over here. He's like, I want to show you something. And he group of people around us, and I was the guinea pig, and I was like, I trust him. It's Raven. Like, what is he gonna do?
And if he did cut you, who cares? When you got cut by Raven.
Yeah, then I got a great story for the rest of my life, and I still got a great story out of it. So either way, I won.
100%. I'm sure you'll hear more stories about Raven from Mike Belcaster, who spent some time with him working the independents. Mike Belcaster making headway there and crushing it as usual.
Fun.
All right, so Tommy Dreamer came down. He told Raven to shut up. He said he had enough of him. Dreamer gives Raven one more warning, and the Stevie says that the reason he lost to Dreamer was because he got beaten up at a club by a few guys. Richard says that Broad Street Bullies will be taking Dreamer out. So then out come Johnny Hotbody and Tony Stetson. Hotbody says they are here for Raven. Raven gets in the ring, and then he hits Dreamer with a few stop sign shots. Easy for me to say, pal. To the Bullies. Raven isn't doing anything each time Dreamer comes directly in his face, grabbing his neck. Now Dreamer's in the corner by Richards and Bullies, and then Raven storms into the corner, and they continue to brawl as we fade out. Cool segment. I mean, this Raven Tommy Dreamer feud we spoke about last week, it continues for 30 plus years. It's still going on. I'm sure somewhere he's hitting the even flow DDT on Tommy Dreamer as we speak. If you listen carefully, you can hear Tommy Dreamer's head hitting the concrete somewhere.
Yeah, no, you see, it just happened. But it's I'm telling you, it's one of the most underrated best feuds in pro wrestling history. The fact that it goes up until this year in Raven's TNA Hall of Fame induction, like he DDT's Tommy Dreamer at the end of it, puts his on the ground, man, and it's just standard Raven shit. It's awesome.
So our next match here, we have Mikey Whipwreck and Hack Byers taking on Jason Knight and Paul Loria. So this match is built up the feud with Whipwreck and Loria from Double Tables. They're continuing the feud former best friends turned enemies. Loria is not happy with Whipwreck's whole rise to the top, being one of the focal points of ECW. I think he's not getting respect. Tale as old as time as far as wrestling feuds go. And this was a decent match. I thought it was good. They went back and forth for a lot. One of the better spots was the inverted Razor's Edge by Knight onto Whipwreck. Whipwreck sold it like crazy. Whipwreck then played possum, and then Knight sent Whipwreck off the top rope, landing chest first. Whipwreck's selling was next level here. I mean, his ability to make you feel certain things in the ring without saying a word, it's next level. And again, we talk about Raven getting kudos and his props and all that. Mikey Whipwreck, dude, as far as selling goes, like, I can't really think of many guys that are better than him. He is a guy that makes you feel emotions in the ring just by facial expressions and getting beat up and putting guys over. Like, he made the other, Jason Knight and Paul Loria look like monsters here.
Yeah, no, and that's like, I mean, one of his, I think Whipwreck's ability to sell was something that got him over, but it also was something that lasted throughout the time of wrestling. I mean, we see people like Pac taking DDTs and overselling the shit out of them in a Mikey Whipwreck-esque, way, and it's so cool to see that kind of live on. I mean, Mikey was unbelievably great at selling. I mean, it was insane, and to go back and rewatch some of these, it's just the greatest shit in the world. I could watch Mikey Whipwreck sell nuts to a squirrel. It's fucking fantastic.
So in the middle of the match, there was a guy wearing a purple mask at ringside. He comes into play at the end of the match where we have Whipwreck with a top rope bulldog on Loria for a 2 count. And then we get Myers going to the top rope, and he gets knocked down by the guy in the purple mask with a right hand, which falls him. Loria gets the pin on Hack Myers. And that's the end of the match here. Strong match. I mean, short, but some good spots. Focal points, obviously, with the Whipwreck and the Loria feud. But questions we have for this match is who's the guy in the purple mask and what's his meaning here? And maybe we'll see a payoff the next Hardcore TVs, or maybe potentially the next event we have to review.
Yeah, it's Mr. JL. No,
everybody's Mr. JL under a mask. Hell yeah,
I love it. But no, it was great, man. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right, so our next match here, we have Too Cold Scorpio taking on Hector Guerrero. This is a Guerrero that we're not familiar with as much, but still just as talented, from the famous Guerrero family. And of course, Too Cold Scorpio's running ECW. Epic. Lay down the facts for us, Mike Belcaster.
Oh, man, this was a very fun match. Too Cold Scorpio is one of those guys that's like, he's got that Sabu must-see quality to him. Every match he is, even when he was Flash Funk, he was going out there and doing shit nobody else in the whole card was doing, and it's awesome to see, and this is no exception. Super awesome. Too Cold Scorpio gets the win. Not the longest match, but a super fun one, and Hector Guerrero put up a hell of a goddamn offense. It was a really good, it was just a great match to watch. This is something, one of those probably like hidden gems out of the 95 lore, man. I could watch Too Cold Scorpio run in circles all day. It's so damn good.
Yeah, Scorpio, I mean, he was doing things in the ring that we're not used to. Again, context of 95, seeing him hit the 450 or misses it, top rope moonsaults, standing moonsaults, things like that Scorpio was doing. Again, we see Speedball Mike Bailey pull all that stuff out in an opening match on GCW's special events. But point being is Too Cold Scorpio at the time, this was not commonplace. Again, change the channel, go to Raw, watch what they're putting on, and see what, Duke the Dumpster Drosey's doing, and see what Abe Knuckleball Schwartz is doing, and then watch what Too Cold Scorpio and Hector Guerrero were doing. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, this was your WCW Cruiserweight division happening on a whole different channel over here. This is great. And like the in-ring work is so quality between these two. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't know how this was so under the radar in 95. This should have been like top tier fucking wrestling shit.
Well, I feel like Guerrero's come out of the wound just knowing how to put on a headlock and just like appropriately apply like a grapple. Like these guys, again, from a family that is just absolutely heralded as far as wrestling goes. And we speak about all the Guerreros that go down there. Hector Guerrero deserves his props, man. Great match. And hopefully we see more of the two of these guys going at it.
No, the Guerreros, they literally plancha off the umbilical cord when they come out of the womb. Like, that's it's what they do. But yeah, I mean, Hector Guerrero is just a fucking, like any Guerrero. It's a breath of fresh air to watch. It's so damn good, man.
Which leads us into our next match here. Ian Rotten taking on Axel Rotten. And there's a stipulation. You promised me glass and stuff. We're not getting it this match, but it's a barbed wire baseball match between two former tag team partners. And the only reason they broke up was because they were forced to in a match. So, like, can you fill context of the blood feud between them, or is it just simple as that?
I think there's a little bit. It's a very big slow build. I mean, you're getting it here. It's not quite the Taipei death match yet, but we got a barbed wire baseball match, and I mean, there's not only are these guys just broken up, but they're continuing to beat the piss out of each other. I think the hatred is growing in strength each match they have against each other, and they just really can't one up each other. It's always one or the other, one or the other, one or the other. It never ends. This is a blood feud between two brothers, jealousy and hatred. Maybe Dad liked Axel more than he liked Ian. We don't know. Maybe Dad wasn't in the picture. Mom liked Axel over Ian. It's just, who knows, man. There's some built up frustration between the two that lingers way more than wrestling. It's a brotherhood battle between two guys, and they want to beat the piss out of each other, and I'm here for it, man.
Papa Rotten didn't love one more than the other, and I get it, man.
Yeah, Papa Rotten's still picking up smokes. Ian was waiting for him. Axel got $20. Ian's pissed because Axel's got $20. Where's Daddy? They don't know. They're just ready to beat the piss out of each other. So
with Ian Rotten, you spoke about no rules, and this was a barbed wire baseball match, bat on a pole match to be booked, but they changed the rules on the fly because it's ECW. No one cares about the rules. And Ian Rotten says he doesn't want the bat to be on a pole. He grabs it from one of the guys helping at ringside and then whacks him with it. Axel grabbed the steel chair to fight off the bat, and we're off to chaos from the beginning. I mean, back and forth, we see weapons all throughout the time. Ian with a chair shot. We see both men busted open pretty early in this match. We see outside action as well. Ian going to the front row. We got Axel hit him with a chair shot, and then there was another spot with Ian blade himself again, even though he's busted open. It was a clear blade job in the crowd.
Just standing there.
Ian was a bloody mess. We got a frying pan shot. We get more bats across the back. Yeah, so the ending saw back in the crowd, Axel with a snap suplex onto the bleachers. Ian then hit a big splash onto the barbed wire bat, which was on top of Axel. Then Axel hit a modified pile driver onto the bat for the win. Absolute chaos. This stepped it up from the last event. I was unsure why they were doing this. Now I'm kind of getting the idea that they're just going to beat the shit out of each other and have bloody matches throughout the next couple months, and eventually they get that glass match. So, yeah. Okay. This one piqued my interest. My eyebrows raised.
Ah, listen, it's not a bad thing. And the great thing about, like, you can call Axel and Ian Rotten the biggest shit show wrestlers, deathmatch, garbage, fucking bingo hall dudes you possibly want. But this is a hell of a feud, man. And it's a very underrated. I think they're carrying the extreme side of ECW right now, at least until New Jack gets there. Like, you're waiting. We got a lot of ground to cover before the craziness comes. But, I mean, these guys, they have a very awesome blood feud going on right now. And, I mean, nothing makes more sense than two brothers going at it. Like, it's meaningful as it is, and you're adding the extreme shit into there, the baseball bats, all the weapons, the blade jobs, the frying pans. It's just, it's got a special taste, and I'm here for it, man. This is fucking quality hardcore wrestling, and yeah, obviously Axel Rotten goes on to do bigger and better things in the hardcore world, but this is where it all starts, man. It's kind of cool to see the beginning of the journey for it, and yeah, man, it's awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, again, match was okay, and we're going to see more throughout. And if you're into hardcore matches, this is sort of the birth of that type of style in ECW. Of course, we see hints of it, but this was the real, like, commitment to the whole match. Is not about headlocks, not about rules. It's just about who can hit each other harder with a random weapon. Like I said, frying pans and chairs and bats on bleachers. Yeah, this was chaos in a good way. I mean, this is why you're tuning into ECW.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Which leads us to our championship match. We have Shane Douglas defending his championship against, yeah, you guessed it, Marty Jannetty. So Tully Blanchard didn't really hit as aside from the guy in the newsletter who did like that match live, but didn't really hit as an opponent that felt meaningful. The match didn't deliver. So lead us through this. We heard no mention of Jannetti on Hardcore TV. We had no mention him in that Shane Douglas promo. And we also had no mention him in the newsletter. So this came as a surprise to see Marty Jannetty peek his head through this curtain and say, I'm coming for the championship. But match had some good psychology, and lead us through and tell us why.
No, it was really good. Listen, Marty Jannetty, I mean, at least in 95, Marty Jannetty was still something, right? And I mean, if Marty Jannetty shows up at a show now, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this guy doing here? And not in the context of, what the fuck is Marty Jannetty doing on ECW TV? It's more of like, who let this guy in from the streets? It's just how he is. But this was very, very hands-on, good wrestling match. I thought it was awesome. Douglas is one of those guys that really can make you believe, and this was a match that makes you believe. There was a lot of quality in-ring work, and which is surprising from a Jannetty match. Maybe not so much in 95. You might have, pick up a Jannetty match and be like, this is pretty good. I'm here to watch it. He wasn't completely fucked up yet. But yeah, man, it was good. It was solid back and forth. I mean, not a lot of bullshit going on. It was a quality-ass wrestling match, but nobody, and especially Marty Jannetty, will take down Shane Douglas. So it was a quality-ass match, man.
What I think they learned from the Tully Blanchard match was the fact that they couldn't just do a wrestling match the whole time. They had to be able to go out of the ring and do things outside to appease the audience. And they didn't go crazy, obviously, after the Axel and Ian Rotten match. It definitely wasn't going to be a bloodbath, but there was still some hardcore tinges to it to show like, oh, Shane Douglas is saying, you're in my house now, Jannetty, and you're not going to be able to handle it. And having the clothesline into the railing, and then seeing Douglas using the crutch from the crowd, that was cool, because I think that's what was missing from that Tully match, and that's why the fans rejected it so vehemently, is because it wasn't their style altogether. And Shane Douglas, being the champion of ECW, should bring the style with him. And it's okay for Jannetty or Tully Blanchard, any of these outsiders that want to come in and challenge for the title. They could be going by the rules. They don't actually want to use weapons. But Shane Douglas, I know he's not a hardcore wrestler, but you are in ECW. You are defending the right of Extreme Championship Wrestling against these outsiders from the old way of doing things, even though Jannetty is still, he's 2 years removed from being like Intercontinental Champion or whatever in WWF, and a couple more years removed from being in the Rockers as well. So I agree with you, man. I thought this match was better than I expected. I didn't really expect, maybe because I didn't expect much. I didn't know what to expect. But seeing Shane Douglas and Marty Jannetty go at it, I was like, I mean, I knew there was no chance Jannetty was winning the championship, but it was cool. Like, if Marty Jannetty came to town and challenged your local indie champion, whether it be, for me, NYWC or Remarkable, or at the time, Jannetty still had some name brand appeal. Like, I think he was fresh off that run in WWF, and there was still some appeal to him. And, capitalizing ECW, he probably didn't cost that much, and Shane Douglas got a nice little rub here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, listen, it's night and day from what you would think a Jannetty match would be. It literally is. I mean, sure, he was great in WWF, Rockers, all this shit, but a lot of that came from who he worked with there, and I think that's a testament to this match, because him working with Shane Douglas, you see how good Shane Douglas is in making, like, steering direction, right? And yeah, man, I thought it was a quality match. I don't think I expected anything better. I expected it to be way worse than it was, much like you said. But I think we'll give Jannetty a little win there.
I'm curious for the next newsletter to see how this was received by the local audience and see if anyone mentions it, as far as, because I know the Tully thing got ripped apart.
Yeah,
but I think it's because you gave him a little sprinkle of that hardcore. It wasn't the whole match. It wasn't chair shots and tables and all that. There was a little bit of crutch. There was outside the ring, fan involvement, and it felt a little bit more ECW style, not just completely an outlier on the card.
Yeah, 100%, man. And like, the thing was, the Tully match, it was compared to this match, it was like wrestling in slow-mo. You know what I mean? And it's not necessarily the fact that it was all in-ring technical shit, but Tully was off his game. And I felt that, like, it felt weird to begin with. This was a complete opposite. Jannetty's a little sprung, ready to roll. He's got a little energy in him, a little pep to his step. Tully had a little pep to his step just because he was doing blow in the back with the guy. So I'm sure Jannetti was doing the same, but Jannetti translated better out in the ECW world. I think there was a lot more to prove for him, and he did a great job. I really enjoyed the shit out of this match.
Yeah, I agree. And we get Joey Styles interviewing Public Enemy after, and Rocco Rock is injured, as we talked about in the newsletter. Rocco said he's paid the price of being in the streets. Rock says that he and Grunge defeated Sabu and Taz last night. And then a "You was Rob" chant breaks out by the live audience, and which popped me. So Benoit and Malenko come down and they take out Grunge, and then Malenko rolls Rocco into a clothesline from Benoit. Sabu and Taz come down and brawl with Benoit and Malenko, which starts the next contest, leading right into the tag title match.
Woo!
The "You was Rob" chant needs to be brought back to any
beautiful.
Indie, please.
Yeah.
You was Rob. You was Rob. So I loved it. For whatever reason, the grammatically incorrect thing towards Public Enemy just made me laugh.
It made sense, and it was quality timed humor, man. Yeah, no, there's awesome shit. I love that. Unique chants are some of the best things you can get, and like this is where we get them from. This is where they stem from. We got some of the most unique chants in ECW, and this is definitely up there.
So we have Taz and Sabu defending their newly won tag team championships against Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko. Dude, this match was a lot of fun. All the personalities in this match. 4 guys that are just a who's who of ECW and beyond. Benoit Malenko, we covered them in exhaustion through WCW 1996, what they've done. Taz and Sabu, not so much yet, but we definitely know what's to come for Taz and Sabu. Sabu establishing his name here in the Northeast, but also around Japan. He's been highly touted as far as needing and wanting to go and work these different promotions. He already has an appeal to him, a legend to him. So needless to say, going in, I expected this to be awesome, and it was. Yeah. I mean, we opened with Sabu with a springboard heel kick on the Malenko, and then right off the gate, fresh off that promo into this match was great. No entrances. We get belly-to-belly suplexes from Taz to Benoit. Seeing these two guys link up, I don't think we got a meaningful program in WWF where we should have when they both had them under the same roof.
Yeah.
When Taz was brought in as Kurt Angle's opponent to end the undefeated streak. Benoit was there, man. It would have been cool to see Benoit and Taz go out. I'm sure they did on a Raw or something, but I'm talking about meaningful programs where they have a few matches that aren't just a one-off on a Raw or SmackDown.
100%, man. And like this was just so damn fun. And how can you not expect it to be? I mean, you got 4 amazing names all over the place. Sabu being in this match is just the bee's knees, man. Yeah. I love, I could watch Chris Benoit and Malenko do anything. We could watch them paint with Bob Ross and be like, God damn, look at this guy. But it's so cool to see, like, Sabu's uniqueness, Taz's really grit, rough Brooklyn wrestling, bro. He's ready to roll, and like you fall in love when you see these kind of matches. This is a match that like you're like, damn, I could become a fan of pro wrestling because I watched this.
So the turning point of this match saw a chop block from Malenko to the knee of Taz. Taz selling like he died. Then Malenko put the leg submission on the knee of Taz, where Taz is selling it like his knee is dislocated. This brings 911 out, and he carries Taz to the back, which left Sabu by himself. So the writing was on the wall for this short reign as far as tag team champions go. We get a double backdrop by Malenko and Benoit. Sabu gets absolute double team, but he comes back with some zest, man. He hit the somersault splash onto both men, then hit the suicide dive on Benoit, springboard moonsault. So Sabu wasn't going quietly into that good night, but it was too much. As Michael Cole would say, the power of numbers, or the numbers game, whatever he says, it was too much. Having Benoit and Malenko attacking you, there's nothing Sabu could have done. We get Benoit throwing Sabu off the top. He landed on the chair. Then Benoit placed Sabu onto a table in the corner, which is on the top turnbuckle. And then Benoit hit a huge power bomb. Benoit went for the cover. We get 3. Crowd was surprised to see a title change because only a few weeks ago we saw, obviously, Taz and Sabu won the titles.
Yeah.
Interesting booking decision because I did not fully expect them to win the champions, but as you guys see on the graphic, I figured that out pretty quickly that when I added them on there with the championships, I was pumped, man. And like, it made everybody look good. Let's just be honest. Sabu looked like a madman. He did lose. Yes, of course he got pinned, but he was by himself. Taz, he got injured. So there's nothing you can do. You have everything written for this rematch. I think it writes itself. And I thought it was really well done as far as booking goes.
No, 100%. The selling was amazing too. It was just great. And Benoit, like, I love that power bomb. I love the opportunities these guys take in the ring in ECW. Like that power bomb has no right to be anywhere near on television, anything, and it's just boom. Like why don't we see more moves off tables in the corner anymore, man? It's such a brilliant spot.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just because of the splinter effect, no pun intended, where it actually like can break out and stab you. But
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, as far as when that spot first originated, it wouldn't shock me if that originated somewhere like here. The way the crowd reacted, it seemed like, holy shit, we've never seen anything like it. Or if we have, it's not that often.
Yeah, and another thing that was awesome about this was the fact that there was no entrances. I love the chaotic start to this. Like, you guys come down and attack people during a promo, and shit starts hitting the fan, bell rings, we're ready to roll. We are in the action. Another thing that does not happen all too often anymore, which would be a cool throwback. I would love to see, an interview segment go right into a match. Fuck the entrances. We don't need it all. Like, just ring the bell. Let's get right to the action, man. Everything doesn't need the glitz and glory. Like, just get out there and kick some ass.
Yeah, it's a pacing thing too. It made the event go a little bit faster because you didn't have to deal with the build up to the match and getting in the ring and feeling each other out. It was immediate. I mean, like I said, Sabu with the springboard heel kick on the Malenko, and the match was underway. And going back to the table in the corner spot, we see that with GCW a lot with the doors, obviously, and those spots pop everyone huge. But it's not as a finish. I mean, sometimes I can think specifically of a finish with the ECW Championship, Cena and RVD. That's how the match ended because Edge came out, speared Cena through that table with the famous biker, and obviously related to ECW.
Yeah.
Cardona did the same thing with Hawkins. They recreated that in GCW. Yeah, man, I don't know. I think the spot, it's probably oversaturated as far as tables in the corners, but to bring it back, man, that power bomb was absolute. He launched them through it, and it looked devastating. And for that to be the ending of the match was perfect.
Absolutely, man. And it was just so damn good.
So after the match, Benoit then got on the mic, issued a challenge to Public Enemy. Public Enemy come out, and Rocco Rock is bleeding from the side. Grunge immediately goes back into it. He goes to work on Benoit Malenko. Taz was carried back out to the ring by 911. 911 slams Taz over the top rope onto a felled Malenko. So Benoit, Grunge, and Rocco Rock continue to brawl. Sabu hit a high crossbody onto Benoit and Rocco Rock, and then 911 chokeslams the referee, which is typical behavior from. So not only did we get the great opening segment to lead into the match, we had that awesome match, and then you had the post-match. This couldn't have been done any better. Like a sandwich of just absolute majesty. I mean, ciabatta bread with some good, as you would say about sandwiches. This was an Italian hero with all the fixins, man. This was great.
I love it. But yeah, no, it was. Listen, nothing beats chaos. It drove us during WCW when we were covering that, and this is right akin to that, but in a match. It opens with chaos. The match quality is fantastic. It ends in chaos. And 911 throwing people all over the place, especially those referees. Nothing beats a good 911 choke slam. Very forgotten. R.I.P. to the big guy. Love 911 so much, man. And it's so reminiscent just watching these things again. Just makes my little heart so damn happy.
Which leads us into our main event. But before that, we have Woman and Sandman with Joey Styles for a promo. Woman makes it clear that she's angry with Cactus for trying to hurt Sandman on purpose, which is her meal ticket. This is the person that pays her bills because she's managing him. Woman then calls out Cactus, and Jack makes his way out to the ring. So we knew this was going to be a mystery opponent. The crowd knew that. They hyped it up. This was on the poster. They wasted no time. DC Drake, who was stuck in a snowstorm last week, that's why he wasn't on double tables, came out in a box, and Joey Styles makes it clear on commentary, trying to convince everybody, including himself, that DC Drake is a sadistic wrestler. Let's be honest, the air was let out on this. Everybody that was expecting someone bigger like a Terry Funk, who we'll see in 1 second. I think the problem with this was that DC Drake was supposed to be at double tables.
Yeah.
He's probably supposed to set up the angle with Cactus after the Sandman match, which I don't know to be true or not. And they were just leading into this match. The fact that you hyped it as a mystery opponent took a lot of the steam out. I think people were just disappointed because they're expecting someone bigger.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard to do. You just had Jannetti come out of nowhere, and then you're building up this mystery opponent. Like, who the hell else could it be? And then it's, DC Drake. Like, the letdown of letdowns.
So the other letdown as far as main event goes, this was a squash match, glorified. Jack hit an elbow drop off the apron, then he hit him with a stop sign, double arm DDT, and that was it, man. Like, interesting to bring someone in as a mystery opponent, trying to extend the feud with Sandman. Obviously, Sandman's out with the concussion, so they have to do something.
Yeah.
My one complaint would be, don't bring him as a mystery opponent. Just have him show up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, I mean, good. How many times do you see Cactus Jack in a squash match? So it's weird. It's a rough thing to see because Foley's usually his matches are really thought out, really dramatic, really entertaining. Like, no matter what, like, he really puts all of his effort into it. And this is just like, hey, bring the guy out of him and beat the piss out of him, double arm DDT, we're done. Game over, So it was weird. It didn't sell as much as it should have, I think. I think it was just very lackluster.
Yeah, and so the other crazy thing is, following the match, as you guys see with the name of the event that was named after the event happened, is Return of the Funker. After the match, Sandman, who has a concussion, should not be active, comes in, he delivers cane shots, and typically you would just have, this was like 2022, he'd hit the cane, he wouldn't do anything, but of course, back and forth happens. He gets a bulldog at the expense of Jack, he hits him with it. Sandman then hits more cane shots. Jack then hit another DDT on Drake. Jack clothesline Sandman over the top rope again. Concussion. His head was just smashed in the concrete where he was laid up for a few days after that double tables event. Jack then puts a blanket over Sandman. Camera pans away, rips the blanket off, and then Terry Funk's appears. So cool Jedi mind tricks as far as camera work goes. Terry Funk appearing got a huge pop from everybody involved, including me at home watching. They go at it, man. We know the history between Funk and Jack. Trading hands, Sandman and Funk work together on Jack. Several cane shots to Jack, and then Chad Austin gets beaten down. Tommy Dreamer comes down, delivers a few cane shots to Sandman. Dreamer cannot hit Funk. Then Funk hit a few slaps on him. Sandman comes from behind with a cane shot. Then Funk, of course, grabs the microphone. The crowd's going crazy. They're so pumped to see him. And he says he hasn't forgotten about Japan, Cactus. He and Cactus, as we all know, had a brutal death match there. I have a shirt from it. Pro Wrestling Crate has the shirt that they released from that famous death match. And that, going back to why the Moxley and the Omega death match, the exploding barbed wire match, fizzled so poorly, was because of matches like Funk and Jack, where, dude, that's the shit right there. That is stuff that you can't ever replicate. Like, don't ever touch it, because the history between Jack and Funk going into that match and then following that match, it's lore at this point.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, man, what a segment. Literally, what an after match segment. Not just chaotic, not just crazy, but rich in history. I absolutely love it. And to think in 2006, when they, did the second one night stand, that we would have Tommy Dreamer and Edge, or Tommy Dreamer, Foley, Edge, and Terry Funk all taking on each other, and how crazy that was, man. Just unbelievable. You're talking 11 years from this show, and these guys were still doing their thing, hardcore as fuck. One of the best matches on WWE product was that tag match. I loved every minute of it, and I love this. This was so damn good. I love the history of it all, man. It's so beautiful.
So the one thing we want to lead off with was, we get Shane Douglas, the champion of ECW, coming into the ring. He's a heel at this point, as we all know. At this point, he's in the ring. He watches Terry Funk hit Cactus Jack with, these are chair shots that should not be replicated.
The
ever.
Best. Yeah.
right to the head. So Cactus Jack is the reason why, they they don't allow this anymore. They're sickening to watch, especially when you know the ramifications and the health effects of the concussion stuff. But anyway, the chair shots, man, straight to the head. Cactus, this is legit shot to the head. You just like lay it in there, Funk. So Douglas now gets slapped by Funk, and then Douglas turns around and decks Sandman, turning face. So we get that on top of the chaos at the end of this match. We now have our ECW World Champion is now a face. What were your thoughts on how this ended? I know you just said that you love the segment, but cool way to end the show.
Yeah, no, listen, it was so, like you said, it was a lot of depth here, a lot of richness. This is like the absolute most beautiful gravy you could have poured on your turkey. Like it really was. It had such richness to it. I mean, we eventually see Douglas and Funk have a feud. We see Douglas and Sandman get, like, this is so awesome, and it's building story, it's building character, it's going back into Funk and Cactus's feud. Like, this covers so many different angles that there's like, how can you not leave this show a happy customer? Like, this was awesome. Happy to see Douglas and Funk kind of going at it. This is great, man. It really is. And those chair shots, man. That Foley was the king of taking no hand chair shots. And
yeah, Royal Rumble '99, man, with the handcuffs. Like I just said that I quit match. Goddamn.
Yeah, and I mean, these were no softer chair shots here.
No, they were not.
Terry Funk was a wild man, and especially when he was in the ring with Foley. Those guys beat the piss out of each other. This was definitely one of those moments where you're like, ugh, like you feel the chair shot go all the way down your spine when you see it happen. You're like, God damn. But yeah, man, I thought the ending was great. Good turn, surprise good turn from Douglas. Awesome to see Funk back. Tommy Dreamer. Like, there's so many different angles here. It's amazing. Sandman, this was like the top tier of 95 ECW in the ring all at once.
And also, before we move to the chaser, the thing that also strikes me from the booking here, and whether it's Paul Heyman or other people in the room that are putting this stuff together, is utilizing past history between guys from different promotions.
Yeah.
And even though it didn't happen underneath the ECW umbrella, they're recognizing it as canon. They're recognizing it as it existed. So immediately, Funk and Jack have this built-in lore because they understand the fans that are watching are intelligent. They follow the product through and through the newsletter and other ways, similar to today, how we follow with the IWC on social media, and you consume everything.
Yeah.
They're not shying away from that. They're not expecting you to think that ECW happens in their own little vacuum, or like Sandy Cheeks' house in SpongeBob, where it doesn't exist in the outside world. That's what I really love about this, because that is the way wrestling goes eventually, where you can bring someone in, similar like how AJ Styles is brought into WWE.
Yeah.
They don't essentially say, they're doing more of it now, recognizing the Bullet Club stuff, but they expect you, they know that you know who he is. They don't have to say it, but there was written history between guys. I mean, they even alluded to it, Bobby Roode, like when they interfaced. I just love things like that, because you're treating your fans with intelligence and respect that, you know, you're not trying to dumb it down. When you try to bring someone back like they did on NXT this week, they brought Reggie back under a mask. That shit is like that. That's a thing of the past. It should not be happening anymore.
No, NXT right now is like 95 WWF. It is just absolutely
the shits, man. Yeah.
Bonkers. The shits. Yeah. Like this is the shits on Taco Bell and fucking laxatives. Like it's crazy. But like, yeah, as you said, when you treat your fans with respect and you show them that you can appreciate history, I think the payday is there for the fans and the company and the competitors. Like there's no reason not to allude to it, at least. You know, you don't gotta say Bobby Roode and AJ Styles wrestled in TNA together. Like, but you could say these guys got a rich history from their past, and like they're bringing it here right now. Like, people get it, man. You know, it's not like you're bringing Joseph Parks to be the guy backstage that's doing his thing, and you're like, oh, that's not Abyss. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it makes no fucking sense sometimes. But when they do it, when they do it right, it's the best.
Well said, man. And I think that we need to see more of it, and I'm sure we're going to see more of it throughout ECW. But with that being said, let's talk about our favorite part of Return of the Funker and Hardcore TV, perhaps, with the Chaser. right.
Woo!
So each week we will pick our favorite parts of the ECW event that we consumed. And this week was ECW Return of the Funker 1995. Mike Belcaster, lead the way. What was your favorite part to consume here?
Oh man, you know what? I was not expecting to have so much here. You know, there was a lot. There was a lot of good shit. I really enjoyed Tuco Scorpio and Hector Guerrero, but I'm giving this to the very final segment. All Chaos comes out. Sandman's there. Tommy Dreamer, Terry Funk, Cactus Jack, and Shane Douglas. It's fucking pandemonium and chaos and the best, man. That's what I live for. That's ECW. That whole last moment. That is exactly, I think, reasons why ECW had such a huge cult following. Chaos. Absolutely.
Yeah, and to be in the building for that too, to see Funk be emerged from that blanket, and so many personalities too. And it's easy now to look back with the knowledge of 30 plus years later of understanding the importance of all these guys throughout wrestling lore, but it seemed like the fans understood how important they were to ECW's legacy at the beginning, which is just shows the intelligence of the fan base. And I think that goes a long way. If you book towards the intelligence at the level of these, meet the fans where they are, you're never going to go wrong. Like, I think that's what Paul Heyman was doing right.
I want to know how they did the blanket segment in person. Like, did they do a lights out and then, Terry just kind of wiggles under there? Or do they like pause the show, say, all right, everybody, you're going to lose your shit in 5, 4, 3, 2. And maybe then it kills the lore. Maybe ECW is very produced and we just don't act like
I just think it was one of those the double switches on the floor, like what they would do with the tag teams. I think back to like the Bashams in 2003.
Oh yeah.
They would just like switch under the apron. He was near the apron enough to get under it, so I think maybe they just like kind of did the whole switch. But really well done, and to see him emerge, and it's a unique way. Of course, he could run out of the back and come out of the crowd. It's a cool way to bring Funk back.
100%, man. Just so much fun.
So my favorite has to be the tag team championship match, and this also goes with the chaos you were talking about with the opening segment, the match itself, and then the following segment that saw obviously 911 chokes on a ref, and then Public Enemy getting involved. Great stuff. Sabu really shined the brightest for me in this match. I think in a fashion that we don't really see Sabu, where he's the underdog, where he's being beaten up and he's against all odds. He fought, but he came up short. But seeing him attack Malenko and Benoit when the odds were stacked against him, it was a different perspective to have with Sabu. And I thought this was really well done. And it kept everybody looking good. Of course, we have new champions, and you can't be any better than with Benoit and Malenko. And I believe their tag team names is Triple Threat, which they don't talk about here. They don't say their name, but I'm pretty sure in the later days they call them Triple Threat, which is interesting because they're two guys, but we'll see how they get there. But yeah, this was an awesome match, dude, and I can't say enough good things about it. And this was a really fun episode compared to last week. I'll be honest, double tables, it was good. There were certain bright spots, and you and I spoke about it, so you guys can go check out the first episode. I don't know, there was something like I wonder what we got ourselves in for. I don't know if this is going to be as good as WCW 1996, but I thought this was twofold. I thought the newsletter and the event delivered. Last week, I felt like the newsletter did more of the heavy lifting.
Absolutely. But I mean, you're going to see in time, especially next week's episode, it might be one of the most historic ECW pay-per-views of all time. You're gonna start seeing little trickles of greatness keep coming out throughout this year. And there's so much there, man. This really lived up to the hype this week. I thought this was such a fun episode. Great show on ECW's part. Newsletter was great. Love the fan perspective. Something that is a good takeaway. I mean, that's something you don't see normally on any company, especially 95. I mean, it was really cool to hear a fan perspective saying, man, this show was the shits, or this show was amazing, and I'm fucking stoked I went to it. I drove 4 hours to go watch, Sandman beat the shit out of Raven. Like, it's quality stuff. You feel for it too. Like, you see the reason why it was so captivating at the time, and it still holds up to this day. I thought this whole show was great. I thought the tag match, like you said, was amazing. It was just a very solid event. Next week's is going to be great. I can't wait.
So, I mean, again, you said it so well, and that's why we put the work in and we do the prep beforehand and have all the information ready. So we have an idea that we're not just reacting, we're reviewing, and we're also using perspective and the benefit of hindsight. And that's what we have here. We have Meltzer's perspective. We have fans' perspective. We have our perspective. Put it all together in this giant gumbo of turkey soup. And it's an awesome ride. And I'm having a great time doing this. And I'm looking forward to the next 11 episodes. So
hell yeah.
Let's get into closing the tab. The lights are coming on the bar. It's Friday night. You guys are probably tired from eating all that turkey, but stay with us for a little bit longer. We have closing the tab. We're going to hype up what's going on in the tavern, what's coming up next week on Shot Nostalgia, and also what's going on in Fig Night and stuff. Alrighty, so final wrap up here. Next week's show will be episode 3 of season 2 of Shot Nostalgia. It will be airing, man, we'll be in December, believe it or not. That's crazy. December 2nd.
Wow, man. Absolutely wild. Right before Shades of Mike Belcaster turned 35.
Here we
so
go.
Crazy. Fun stuff. Yeah, we're getting there.
So as you
awesome
mentioned before, we're going to be reviewing ECW Three-Way Dance 1995 from April 8th, 1995. And there's a lot of time that has passed because it's the end of February. February 25th is when Return of the Funker happens. So a full month goes by. No March event, beginning of April. You mentioned Three-Way Dance. Do you want to give people a teaser if they have not watched it?
Man, all I gotta say is I don't want to ruin the whole show. I don't want to spoil anything crazy. This possibly one of the best main events in ECW history, and it's insane. A fucking awesome match. I'm super excited for it. It's just the second I seen the title, I was like, oh, it's that Three-Way Dance. Let's fucking go. So, as Tony Khan would say, this is going to be the best episode of Shot of Nostalgia ever. You're never going to miss it. You're going to see some of the greatest talent from all across the world right here in ECW. Three-Way Dance 95. We're
Amazing. So on top of talking about ECW Three-Way Dance, of course, we're going through the newsletter. There's going to be a lot to comb through because we have from the end of February, we have all of March, and then that first week of April to go through. So who knows what's in there? I don't know exactly. I did not do the prep, full transparency. But the other episodes we're going to be talking about is the Hardcore TV episode from February 28th, the episode from March 7th, the Hardcore TV from March 14th, the Hardcore TV from the 21st and the 28th, and also on April 4th. But the other interesting part is we have the results from 2 house shows that happen non-televised, the 3rd of March, which I have the results from, and the 17th on St. Paddy's Day, 1995, a house show. So those will add more context. So although they are off our screen, although this special super card event isn't happening, any of these house shows could have been that. So if there's enough meat on the bone to break it down to the point where we have to break down the matches, of course, we're going to do that for you. But we're going to bridge that gap for you, get you all the way to April safe and sound, and then be able to understand all you need to know all going into Three-Way Dance to enjoy it to your full heart's content. Let's be honest.
Yeah, literally, next week's episode is going to be like a Thanksgiving dinner. It's we're pulling out all the leftovers. I feel like it's going to be a really stacked, solid episode. So make sure you guys tune in. Again, appreciate all the love that's coming our way. The comment section last week was such a blast while we were watching. I had a great time. Paul Ellering is my BFF from the internet now. Like, it's just so great.
Paul Ellering.
Good old Paul Ellering, man. But it's such a trip, and we appreciate you guys for tuning in and going over it with us, because I think this is the most fun I've ever had doing any kind of wrestling related shit. I'm really enjoying our time here.
That means so much to me. You've done so much in the wrestling podcasting world.
Yeah, and it's like this is a trip, man, and we're literally going through the just the hallways of history together, and it's such a blast, man. And I can't wait to keep going. I'm so excited for this whole damn year. It's gonna be such a trip.
Not only are we having Shot Nostalgia next week, there's other things going on in the tavern. So, Mike, you want to tell us what you guys are doing on Fig Night next week?
I'm making my return. I know this week Nick Storm came back. You guys go watch that episode. It was really good. A very, very sick Mike Belcaster is making his comeback. Kicked out at 2. Kicked out of 2 2/3. I'm doing good, man. The hands coming up after the second drop of the sleeper. We're running wild, brother. But I'll be back next week in full fuckery, ready to roll, and cannot wait. You guys held down the fort this week. Much applause to the tavern crew. As always, you guys are great. But yeah, man, it's going to be a fun week next week. Just as I always say, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you got that bell ring. You know, come on down to the Turnbuckle Tavern, man. Look at all the fun little logos right there. We got every platform possible, including the Forbidden Door Twitter right now. It's great. So come join us, like us everywhere, subscribe, follow. You know, shoot us some love on the Instagram, man. Come say hi to the fam. It's good stuff. We're all here for you guys. We appreciate y'all.
Yeah, well said. And you guys can see the background. I have my banner from all these indie shows I've been. So subscribe, turnbuckletavern.com. I hung it back there to break apart the white of the door.
It looks good
hanging there. So some things happening on my end. Like I said before, I'll get into that in a second. But we have Juventud Guerrera coming to Remarkable Wrestling. How soon is now? He'll be taking on the champion Gabriel Sky Friday, December 16th. I'll be in the building doing the ring announcing for Remarkable Wrestling as we're naked again. So we got to get used to that. Also, too, some big news is I'll be representing the tavern at NYWC Tour Day Circus. So that will be happening the night after December 17th. I'll be there with the same setup. You guys saw me at VPW, Disorderly Conduct. And thank you, everyone that showed up. I'm now out of stickers. I'm out of keychains.
Woo!
We're spreading the word of the tavern all over the place. So got to reload for December, but I'll be at NYWC handing stuff out. Maybe it'll be different. Maybe it'll be the same, but some free stuff will be coming your way. So make sure you guys visit the table and say hi. And of course, support them in Deer Park, New York, and NYWC's sure to put on a great match match card. And I would say Jaden Vallow and Michael Mistretta is enough to get you in the building right now for the championship. So that's going down December 17th. The other thing I alluded to as well, and I'm just going to put a little hint here. There's been connections with guys such as the name of Paul Loria, such as the name of Mikey Whipwreck, and others. Let me pull my notepad out. Spent some time, as you guys saw on my Instagram, I was at the Juventud Guerrera training seminar at Remarkable Wrestling. He was the nicest guy. Couldn't have been any nicer. He spent some time with the students in the Northeast, both from NYWC and Remarkable Wrestling, doing an amazing training seminar. So excited that went down. I filmed some content there. You guys can see the reel. That was great. But also some other connections potentially down the pipeline. None of these are guaranteed. These are just preliminary conversations. Joel Hartgood, Chris Michaels, and also Mike Norman all appear in ECW 1995, which I now, through my good friend Shane from NYWC, who owns the company. He's amazing. You guys, again, support NYWC in any way you guys can. He has a history with these guys, and he's so gracious to put me in contact with them, and we'll see where it goes. And as far as being able to interview them and have a conversation about ECW 1995, potentially it won't be in a format reviewing the shows. It may be potentially in person at NYWC with the ECW original backdrop of their entranceway. That ring is the same ring that a lot of these guys wrestled in. So I'm trying to make that happen for you guys, and we're going to see. I mean, it may be like, a 30, 40-minute conversation in person that will air as a side, maybe like a Visits the Tavern and a Shot Nostalgia ECW 1995 type of thing. But stay tuned for that. We're working hard on it, and Mike Belcaster and I are always pounding the pavement to make this the best possible product for the tavern and for you guys, because that's what we're doing. I'm going to continue to grind the indies and be out there and supporting all these guys that are working so hard on every weekend. And, go out and check out some of the content we put out the last few weeks, whether it be the Slime Balls. And shout out to the Slime Balls, by the way. They won the EAW Tag Team Championships this weekend. So that was amazing. And also, you guys, if you guys can go on Instagram and support Sage Chance, go to the GoFundMe, and you guys can see all the information. If you have anything to donate during the holiday season, send that way. For the unfortunate happenings of a couple weeks ago with Sage and his family. So, big shout out to them. And I love the work they're doing. And yeah, man, this has been a fun ride. I love doing this with you as well. And come see me at any of these shows I'm coming in. I would love to talk wrestling with anybody that comes up. So
hell yeah. No, it's a blast hanging with Ace. I could attest to that in person. So
try my best, but this has been a great episode, and we're at an hour 45 where we usually wind up there, and like I said, it goes pretty fast. We're sitting here and talking, but let's go through the schedule one more time just to see other things that are coming up. We said three-way dance is coming up next week, December 2nd, but we also have, as I got to put this bigger actually because I can't see it. We have ECW Hostile City Showdown coming up the week after. ECW Enter Sandman on the day before Christmas Eve. It's Christmas Eve. We have ECW Barbed Wire, Hoodies and Choke Slams. We also have Hardcore Heaven, Heat Wave, WrestlePalooza, Gangsta's Paradise, November to Remember, December to Dismember, and of course, Holiday Hell on February 10th. That'll be our finale, episode 13. We'll throw a little bit of a party. But the main thing I want you guys to take away from this is have a good time, put wrestling in context, and understand the roots of where a lot of the wrestling you love came from.
Absolutely, man. Couldn't have been said better myself.
So I got Paul Heyman in my ear. I also got, Tony Khan is in my ear. What is he saying, Belcaster?
He's like, we're almost out of time. Paul Heyman's checks are bouncing like rubber balls at the goddamn grocery store. We gotta get out of here. Rampage is about to start. Let's fucking go.